Good evening. This is Dr. Richard Cole Williams. This is Healthy Relationships Only, where we accept nothing less than healthy relationships. So I'm so excited to do today because I'm bringing back one of my favorite people to really discuss intimacy and what that means. So with no further ado, let's bring up Will Baptiste. Hi, Will. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're in the world. I am doing fantabulous, even if it's on a Monday. But to me, every day is a blessing. Every day above ground is a great day. So I don't wait for weekends. I don't wait for a specific date. I'm in the now. I'm in the moment present, and I appreciate every single minute, hour, second in the day.
I'm so happy to do this with you again. If you don't know, you did a show with us a couple weeks back here with Healthy Relationships, and then we took you up to the big show, and you did the show, The Culture with Faraji, and such a great experience because it's so important to talk about emotional health, to talk about men, and to be honest, today we're talking about intimacy. And
Right.
I'm sure people have all sorts of thoughts of what intimacy actually means and where they think that connection is. And a lot of people assume it's a romantic intimacy, but there's all sorts of different types of intimacy. So what does it mean to you, Will?
Well, to me, but first of all, let me just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Will
Oh,
Baptiste.
I'm so sorry.
Um,
I'm assuming
most
like everybody knows you, but please.
everybody knows me, but for those who, because we're getting more audience every time, right?
Yes,
So there you
yes.
go. The show is taking the life of its own, and pretty soon you're gonna have a wide audience here in Canada. So you're gonna have to learn your French.
Yes, 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 yes. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
All right. My name is Will Baptiste. I'm a coach and author and speaker. What I do, I create safe spaces for men to express their emotions and get unstuck from emotional suppression. What is emotional suppression? Basically, it's emotional constipation. We want men to be able to release. That's what I do. And I'm also an ambassador, brand ambassador, an owl. So if you want to know more about it, you can always check me out on social media, all the social media platforms, actually.
Yes.
For me, intimacy, when I break it down, is into me you see.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and I think I can speak for a lot of men, there's a misconception about intimacy when it comes from men. For me, intimacy is not in my bed. I'm gonna keep it 100. It's not in my bed. It's in my mind. If I let you, because let's face it, men's, not going into too much details. Men are visual. Men are always ready to go. But when a woman can get into my mind, when I allow a woman to get into my mind, trust and believe that that's the highest level of intimacy that I let a woman have with me. So for me, it's really about, you have to earn it. And I know it may sound cocky, it may sound arrogant, but that's okay. But you have to earn your way into my mind, because I am a very highly intelligent, emotionally intelligent man. So I can scan people. And for me, it's really about it. Do I allow you to get into who I am? Because
Right.
once I crack the door
But I
open,
think
there's no going
that's
back.
that's part of, and I think particularly now, that's such a big deal because connection. So to me, intimacy is true connection. And like you said, it's pulling back those layers of the onion, and allowing some to actually get into what actually makes you click and what makes you work and being, key word here, being vulnerable. And
Right.
for many men, and I want to say women now too, I think we're in a different space. It is hard for even women to allow people to see their vulnerability.
because because vulnerability brings fear, and there are two types of fear. there's a fear there's fear losing their partner, or fear losing themselves.
Hmm.
That's what vulnerability create. It create a fear of what happened if I let this person in into my life. and then they hurt me. But guess what? It takes courage. That's
Mhm.
what it really does. It takes courage for you to take that risk to say, you know what, you have shown me enough for me to allow you, and now therefore it's going to take courage for me to take a risk. And then you got to understand vice versa. That person also is going to take a risk of trusting you. So uh, we can't be too naive and we can't be too cynical. We got to find a way in the middle, and that's called courage. So
Yeah.
when you find that courage to take a risk and say, you know what, I'm going to trust that person until that person gives me a reason not to. Because
Okay,
it's
so
so
you're talking about some major words here. Okay, so number one, if you're watching us, I know we have our Instagram people that are watching and we appreciate you. And if you want to really get into the conversation, you can comment. Let me know that you're there. As well as you can join us over here on YouTube on the Dr. Bridget's Wellness Reclaimed, or you can put in Dr. Bridget MD and you will find us here. We're talking to Will Baptiste, who's a coach, author, speaker in Canada, focusing
right,
on emotional health, working mainly with Black men. And today we're talking about intimacy. And so, getting back on track here, we said getting to know you. We said expressing vulnerability, right? We're talking about trust. We're talking about a deeper level of expression that men struggle with, women struggle with. It's been harder since COVID,
right,
right?
right,
Because people have started working at home. They don't know how to be out in the be out in the workplace. People don't even know how to put clothes on, because they're used to, working at home so much. And then being almost like people need a refresher course on what dating is, or even, like I said, intimacy is not just a romantic term. It could be intimacy with your kids, really getting to know the nooks and crannies and getting to know them, intimacy with your family. And it is so that level of connection.
right. It is that level of connection. And
Yeah.
what I want to talk about, I don't want to just talk about intimacy as a whole, but I
Mhm.
wanted to, I want to break it down,
Mhm.
and for people to understand. There are six types of actually there are seven types, but the last one, as I'm not the type of person that's going to push that out there, but I'm going to talk about the six type of
Okay.
intimacy I believe
Okay, so
that
let's
everybody.
get into that. And so let's talk about these levels of intimacy and how people should connect with them. So just kind of getting started here, let's just start off at the top with what people expect us to talk about, and let's just talk about physical intimacy.
Yes, let's do that. And I want to add one more word or two words behind physical intimacy. I want to say non-sexual, because as
Okay.
soon as we hear physical intimacy, we already think, because I think we have to build our physical intimacy first before we can talk about the sexual part, which is another type of intimacy. So
Hmm.
physical intimacy is about, can we hold hands? Can we walk and hold hands? Did you know that some people don't know how to hold hands? Some
No.
people will squeeze somebody's hand too much, too hard, not enough. Which way that person even like to be held? How do you
Right.
do it, right?
It's not just how to do it, but for some people that this is too intimate for them. Some people, and I'm not saying it's wrong. Don't get me, people do what works for you, but some people
Right.
prefer this over this because this in itself is too intimate. And plus, we're in such a scary world now. People are like, oh, I don't want to physically like the whole, when I say post COVID, I mean that because people have lost that ability to want to connect
Well, we
and
lose that
hear.
connection. But the reason why we lost the connection, that's because we lose a connection with ourselves.
Mhm.
It comes back to ourselves, because what I'm doing is or what I do to you or not do to you is a reflection of what's going on internally. So I think that's
Mhm.
what we have to look at in terms of, am I connected with my higher self? Can I be physically intimate with myself? So again, can I give myself a hug? Can I give myself a pound? Can I say, hey man, good job? I don't
Mhm.
need that from somebody else. Now, if I get it, I appreciate it. I'm all for it. Thank you. But do I really need that in order for me to move forward? And when we talk about physical intimacy, we can take it from a platonic relationship to a romantic relationship. That's even harder because that are you at the level yet to be able to hold that person's hand? Can you watch the body language? Do you understand when that person wants to be held, wants to be hugged, wants to be kissed, where do you want to be kissed? So I think there's a whole host of relearning, not learning new things, but just to unlearn and to relearn.
Mhm.
And I think we're too fascinating about learning new things, but the old thing that we learn, can we unlearn them? Because we're learning from the wrong way. We're learning from our environment that was toxic. We're learning from the world, which have a distorted way of thinking about things. I think it's time for us to do a declutter. I think it's time for us to do.
Declutter, declutter. You know what? You know what you can throw out first, Will? You can throw out that doggone phone.
Right.
Because you know what? People have an incredible intimacy with their phone.
And we're gonna talk, yes. And there is a way we can use that, which is gonna be part of our intimacy. We're gonna talk about that later. How can
Yes.
we turn that one thing that is so bad that get a bad rap? Because anything that we do, if we overdo it, it becomes a distraction.
Anything.
Anything, there's a song that says, "Any too much of a good things, it's bad."
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about dosing. It's really about knowing how to use something instead of letting that thing use us.
Okay, so before we move on from this, if you, because there's certain types of personalities that struggle with intimacy, they don't like to be touched.
Hmm.
Um, they avoid physical intimacy because they struggle with emotional intimacy, like avoidant personality struggles with this quite a bit. They feel uncomfortable with closeness. And so, but let's say just for your average person that in a world where we don't hug like we used to, we don't touch like we used to, they're isolated. How do you get to a place of reconnecting with humans, you know?
Right, exactly. And I'm glad that you said some people don't, because the part of it is trauma. That person might have been
All of it
abused.
is trauma.
Right, exactly. So it's really about, do you know this person? Do you have boundaries? Because if I have boundaries, I'm going to respect yours, right? Because the
Mhm.
people that don't respect someone else's boundary because they don't have boundaries themselves. So how do we reconnect and how do we find that? Again, it's all about how we perceive things. We can, if we know somebody, we're gonna know, either by the body language, through the conversation, we're gonna know what they like and what they don't like. And when we like someone, we tend to learn about them, what the love language is, how do
Mm,
we, when do I talk to them, what state of mind they are. So it's a lot of work, and that's why people don't want to do the work, right?
mhm.
One just want to throw the baby with the bathwater and throwing things on the wall and hoping it sticks, but it doesn't work that way. We
Yeah.
got to take the time, and I wish people would go take some courses. I mean, we get into relationship for a lifetime, whatever that relationship looks like. But yeah,
Mhm.
we can just wing it. We'll go
Mhm.
to school to learn how to drive. We'll go to school to learn how to, whatever it is. But one thing that is so key, so important, because without relationship, we die.
Mhm.
Without relationship, we die. When I say we die, we mean the soul. Once your soul dies, it's just a matter of time for you to be buried. So we need relationship. But how do we go about doing it? But we've learned it for hundreds of years the wrong way. Again, it's time for us to unlearn and to relearn. And I think this is a good place to start on
Yeah.
this show with Dr. Bridget Cole Williams.
Absolutely. Well, let's move into our next form of intimacy, and I'm just looking here. Uh let's talk about I think this I
Oh,
think
I love. Yeah, go ahead. Yep. I love that. Go ahead, throw it out
I
there.
think this is the hard.
Emotional intelligence. This is the hardest one. This
Yeah.
is the one that most men, and if you're a man or if you're a woman that know a man, please bring him into this conversation because this
Yeah.
is specifically for men because men struggle with that part, emotional intimacy. Because when we become emotional, we become naked, we become vulnerable, and we men don't want to be vulnerable. Again, as I've talked to men that I've worked with, I said there's a hidden treasure behind your vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, how do we become vulnerable? And I think that's the fear. It's the fear of, am I being too vulnerable? Am I being vulnerable to the wrong person? Well, guess what? If the environment is right, you can never be too vulnerable. If the person is right, you can never be too
But how do
vulnerable.
you know? See, this is what happens. People, jump into whatever. They don't know themselves. They're young, whatever, right? And they get hurt and they get hurt badly. And this is men and women. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some that will never allow that space of vulnerability and intimacy happen again. That after that, it is almost a game starts to be played because they just never want to be hurt again. But relationships cannot survive with, look, we're talking about 6 different types of intimacy. Relationships do not survive, definitely with these top 2, okay? Because if you cannot be emotionally intimate, if you cannot let the guard down, if you cannot express your feelings and realize that this is something that you want to connect with somebody on,
Well, then that
won't
person,
work.
absolutely, and that person don't deserve you. And I don't think you should ever be in a relationship with someone if you cannot, for the life of you, being vulnerable. Which means there's still some work, there's still some residue from the past trauma, hurt, pain, and all that kind of stuff, wounds that are still lingering that you have not worked with. Because what happened when you build a wall? Yeah, you're protecting yourself, right? But
Mhm.
at the same time, you become a slave because you can't get out. So if you're gonna build a wall, please by all means have a door so you can open it so people
Right.
can in and
If you
out.
wait, wait, so you say this, don't take me too far. If you're going to build a wall, have a door so that someone can get in or out, right?
You can allow someone to be in and out. Exactly. You can
Yeah.
allow them to be in if you don't want, and they have the right to walk out at any given time. At
Honey, you don't
any
even know what
given
you're
time.
saying to me today. Okay, go ahead.
You can leave at any given time because you should not hold somebody in captive for the mere fact that because you want somebody around you. You leave the door. They can come in and out at any given time. The people that wants to stay will stay. Well, listen, we're dropping the mic already.
You don't even know what you're saying today.
Oh
So
man, girl, I'm
yeah,
telling you.
that's all. Look, I got to pay for that one. But absolutely, if you cannot let, so this is the thing. Like when I see this, particularly the emotional intimacy, if you, first of all, how empty is your expression of being a human on this planet if you're not allowing, whether it's friends or family or intimacy of a level, if you're not allowing that deep emotional connection, and I know there's a lot of trauma out there,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but if you're not allowing that, you're not, we are able to do this in a way that no other animals really can. There are some animals that definitely connect and, what have you, but what we experience as humans is so much different. And when you decide you're going to live on this planet and not have that type of deep connection, you are missing the whole point of what we are doing here. And
Absolutely.
so I think therapy for people, I think, depending on what the issue is, there might be medication involved, but you're working mainly with men, Will. Like
Mhm.
you certainly see a lot of men that don't do deep connection.
Well, the deep connection actually is part of another intimacy. I mean, I don't know if you're ready. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
Oh yeah, deep connection because you can have deep conversation about a lot of things, but not being vulnerable. Now, here's the thing about. Let me go back to vulnerability. Vulnerability is not what you overcome; it's what you're going through. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
vulnerability is not what you overcame, but it's what you're actually going through at the moment you're struggling with. Because you've already overcame it, now it become an experience. It's not vulnerability. Now let's take it a step further. Let's talk about the deep conversation because it's very close, but there's a fine line between being vulnerable and having deep conversation, right?
Mhm.
That's called intellectual intimacy
Mhm.
because I
Yes.
can be vulnerable with you what I'm struggling with, but without getting deeper into the conversation. And I think that's the we have to be able to make that difference, right?
Mhm.
Because your emotions and your intellect that's part of your soul, because your soul is the hub of your intellect and your emotions, right? So they kind of brothers and sisters. But sometimes we kind of interchange them, thinking that are we being vulnerable or are we having a deep conversation? So it's a very, very fine line. But we do have to talk about those deep conversation. What are some of the deep conversation? The deep conversation is something that you feel like you need that, and to have a deeper connection, right? Because I can be vulnerable with someone but not having a deeper connection. I can tell someone that I'm struggling with I have an addiction. That's
Okay,
been
okay. All right. So vulnerability. I can tell, oh, I'm having this problem. I have these issues. I can be vulnerable about something personal.
right.
It doesn't mean I'm having a deep okay, so
Con-
keep going.
oh, absolutely. Doesn't mean
We
we
can't
having a deep conversation.
vulnerability, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because the vulnerability part, it will last what, a minute? Good. I just tell you what's going on. Now, it's the vulnerability that's going to drive us into the deep conversation. Because I can tell you, I don't have money, or I'm struggling to pay my bill. Oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Then that's it. But going to deeper conversation is, well, guess what? I had a bad financial experience. This is what got me into the place where I'm at right now. So that is a deeper conversation. So there are different type of that, but at the same time, I think for too long, when we get into the deep conversation, most people don't want to have that, because they feel like if you tell me, then I'm going to have to tell you. So the other party does not allow us to have that deep conversation, because now they feel compelled.
Mm-hmm.
They feel guilty. Now, oh, if he talks to me about this, do I have to talk to him about that? Not necessarily.
But
Because
is the intellectual intimacy a also a uncomfortable conversation, like racism, like is intellectual intimacy the ability to have uncomfortable conversations as
not
well?
just uncomfortable, but also to be able to articulate what you're trying to say.
Oh, well, first of all, that's a whole not that's everybody can't.
That's what
Let
I'm
me
saying.
back
So
up. People struggle with that.
right. That's because they do not understand what they're talking about. That's why they struggle with it. So that's why intellectual and emotional are two different things. Because emotional, it requires that vulnerability. Intellectual, it requires you with the knowledge, but also the understanding to be able to articulate without with a lot of fluff, with a lot of words that just make no sense.
Hmm.
So can we have an intellectual conversation? And I said to a young lady one time, I said, man, you I told her, I said, man, your intellect, you are rising my intellect. When I told her, she's like, what? I'm like, yeah. So you give me this climax, if I could say that, of
Hmm.
the way you talk to me. My brain is on fire. Just like my
Hmm.
body will be on fire if you touch me a certain
Hmm.
way. But my brain was
Okay,
on
so
fire.
when you say that, I say sapiosexual.
There we go. That's the word.
All right. So for others, sapiosexual is when you are aroused or find connection with someone's intellect for their ability to explain, have deep conversation. And so for some people that means nothing. And I'll be honest, some a friend of mine told me one day, this was a couple years back, and said, "Oh, you're sapiosexual." I had no idea what a sapiosexual was.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, who? What? Like, what are we doing now? What did I
Right.
miss?" Right? And he was like, "No, you connect with someone who with a great intellect that can you can learn from, you can get into deep conversations with." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like that is really that draws me into that person, like
Right.
everybody, right?" And he was like, "No, everybody isn't like that, right?"
Not not
And
everybody has the
that
ability.
threw me because of course you know your experience and
Right.
my assumption. Now, if we back up, that emotional intimacy might be more of the demi sexual, who is someone who actually connects based on deep emotional experience with somebody,
That's
right?
right.
And though I think that's nice, that is not like it doesn't, the bells and whistles don't go off for me on that. But if I can talk to you and have like this well, and that's a whole nother level, but this experience of deep connection through um a back and forth or a conversation where I'm learning and understanding and being able to articulate things, that is something that's really exciting.
And here's
Right.
another thing about intellectual intimacy is when you'll find yourself disagreeing on a lot of things, but you can still hold a conversation like we agree on everything.
Right. You can still disagree,
Right.
but you have the ability to say things in a way that isn't you're still able to keep the conversation going because you're explaining things in a way that it feels safe for both people.
So in other words, even though I might be against something, you bring such a compelling argument. Now
Mhm.
all of a sudden my mind is one is like, okay, well, I really didn't like that because I was closed-minded. But now the
Mhm.
way you explain it to me, now it want to make me have a second look and having an open mind to say, you know what? I may not like this. I may not be, want to partake of this, but at least I want to have an open mind to at least give it a try to even look into that. And that's what most people don't have today. Most
Mm.
people want somebody to be on the same page.
Well, right, right,
I listen. I do not want to agree on everything with nobody because
right,
you are stifling my growth.
right,
You are stifling my growth
right.
because
Right.
we agree on everything.
So this is the thing. Most people, and I don't want to say most, a lot of people struggle with that because they feel like you're taking them out of their comfort zone. But I feel like life is about being taken out. We're socialized, however, you've been socialized in your family, in your environment, in your culture, in Canada, in your life. I've been socialized in my life. And you learn the habits, the norms, the conduct that is appropriate for what you've experienced, right? But what is the difference between socialization and sometimes brainwashing? Sometimes you are socialized in a space that does not really, as you grow into a person, you can question your socialization and decide, was I brainwashed into things that I don't connect with? Right.
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
making other choices after that. And so you, I want someone who thinks differently. Now, if you're batshit crazy, you're batshit crazy. Okay, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
You do if you're into different things that I've just never even considered. Now I'm growing as a person, like you said. Now you're stretching. That's part of the joy for a lot of people of travel,
Yes.
right?
Someone who travels, it's the same thing as someone who speaks more than three languages.
Yes.
Because
Wait,
because
wait.
it
More than
has been
three? Why is it
said,
gotta be more than three?
because it's been said once you learn more, when you can speak more than three languages, it's easier for you to learn
Um,
multiple other languages. Because
yeah.
right now, because your brain now it has to do this because it's always in threes, right? There's more a spiritual connection behind that number three, right? So once you learn three languages, it's much easier for you to learn any other language. It's the same thing as someone that's well traveled, and I believe that people that are well traveled have this advantage because they're very cultural aware because they're
Mhm.
not stuck on their culture, they're not stuck in their tradition. They are well traveled, say so they are able to have different conversation, trying different food, trying different culture. People like that tend, not all the time, but most of the time, they tend to have the emotional intimacy, the intellectual intimacy,
Mhm.
not so much the physical because they may not have the touch part of it. But there's
Mhm.
another one we're going to be talking about, and that's also going to be part of that. Someone that's well traveled, someone that really been working on themselves, and
Mhm.
to have that deeper connection as well.
Okay, well, let's go into that. So
What?
I'm gonna assume that we're talking more of the experiential.
Oh yes, I did know it. Absolutely
Yes.
experiential. So basically, let's get out of the house because there are different types of activities. You can do activities indoors, but this one
Right.
I'm talking about activities outdoors, right? Um, listen, when I first learned how to ski was in Canada, about 10 years ago. I learned with my daughter. Um,
Mhm.
I listen, this is not for me. But guess what?
That's what you. That's not where I thought this was going. Is that what you skiing isn't for you?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no. But I will I will go skiing with someone that loves to ski. Why? Because I want to have that experiential intimacy. Because now I'm seeing you in your element,
Yeah.
right? Hiking,
Yeah.
running, road trips, right? Camps, and all that kind of stuff. We have to have that. So often it's home movies and what else? A sports game, which is all fine. But let's go deeper because those are the things that we expect to do but not too many people expect to do to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of guy that's outdoor. I'm more into, I'm a bodybuilder. I want to be inside. I want to push the weights. Then all of a sudden, you're challenging me. You say, you know what? Let's go hiking. Let's go skiing. Let's go do this experiential because now you're seeing that person. How do this person react in a certain environment? It's all
Right.
about environment because all different activities we're going to require a different environment. It's going to require you to be emotional intelligent. It's going to require you to have intellectual intelligence. So there's a whole host of things that it really you uncover or being fully open to see the type of person that this person, especially on a road trip. If you have ever been on a road trip with a man, if you want to know a man, you go on a road trip with that man.
You know what, and what a great place because even for men, even in intimacy, sometimes having the distraction of you both looking ahead is sometimes the best way to get them to open up, right? And
Absolutely.
so yeah, a road trip isn't a bad idea. But I think it's really beautiful to see with someone in their element, whatever that. So you're talking about all these things, and I'm sure there's a couple things that might go through people's head where all that costs money. It doesn't have sometimes experiential is seeing them with their family and interacting with like some people will go to other people's family reunions,
Right,
right?
right.
And so now you're experiencing this person really in their real element. Now you mean like great auntie. You know what I mean? Like now
Absolutely.
so it doesn't always have to be these, elaborate travel type things. It's getting out there and seeing them in different environments and them seeing you in different environments. Because the problem is, do you know there are people who have their total relationship is online, is on the phone, is
Mm,
text, like their entire, and how well can you possibly know someone if you have not seen them in experiences and
right,
even stressful experiences?
right. And here's another way that I love for people to experience that. When I talk about that person being an element, let's just say if that person is a teacher, is doing a conference, look at how other people see that person. So you want to look at that person through someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
I guarantee you probably will fall in love with that person more than ever before
Yeah.
because now you see what people see in them. Now you have a more appreciation for that person. And I was telling to a young lady, this young lady I'm interested in. I'm like, I would love to see you giving, doing your giving your training just for me to sit back to see how other people see you because I think it's very important. So a lot of time we are not, everybody's doing their own thing, but not really in that person's element. And I will encourage anybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, if the other person is in a different type of field, even if it's 5 minutes,
Hmm.
go and watch that person. And I guarantee you're gonna walk away with something, with an experience that is unreal, that is definitely mind blowing. Because now you
You know
see
what?
that person.
You know what I think though, even with someone that you might be interested in romantically, I have always found that type of experiential experience with my kids and then seeing them in their environment as they grow, right? And seeing how their friends run up to them and adore them, and I'm like, wow, like to seeing someone that you love being loved by in their environment, their teachers, like I've been up to the school at times, And, one of my daughter's teachers saying, "Oh my gosh, are you her mother? She's amazing. Oh, I love," and genuinely, not the, "Oh, she's great." No, genuinely saying, "Oh, she is such a delight."
Mm.
It is such a honor, right?
Right.
To
Right.
sit back and say the person that I love is being loved by others.
Well, it's yeah, but also what it does is a different appreciation. Not
Mhm.
that you love more or less, it's just a different type of way you love that person, especially to someone else's through someone else's eyes. Have you ever noticed that? Not all the time, and I'm not promoting that, but most of the time we tend to love somebody more when that person's being loved by somebody else. And all of a sudden, right? And now you're like, okay, so I took this person for granted, and all of a sudden somebody's dying to be with this person, and here I am taking that person for
Oh
granted.
my gosh, all the time, right? So you always see that where they're like, "Wait, she's with him?" Well, the same guy that the woman passed by and didn't care about before, all of a sudden,
Hmm.
oh, well, I don't know what people start thinking, but that happens all the time.
All the time. All
Yes,
the time.
absolutely. So crazy as it may sound, it's true.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move into, because let's go into spiritual intimacy.
Absolutely. As a spiritual person, the reason why I like this one is because as a spiritual person and not religious, right? As a spiritual person, I like to know that if I'm battling some type of spirit that I don't feel like, or I don't have the strength to pray, that this person will help me to pray. This person will help me back into the connection with my higher self, with my higher power, which is God, or
Hmm.
whatever that is for you. But for me, it's God. So can you? Because at some point, that load may be so heavy for me that I'm gonna need somebody else to help me. And that if you're not able to help me with that spiritual load, even the Bible talks about unequally yoke. And I was explaining to someone the other day what is back in the old days, when you have a big cow and a small cow and you put the yoke, well, guess what? It's going to be unbalanced because one is big, the other one is small. So
Hmm.
someone is going to be pulling more than the other. But if
Right.
we're all equally yoked and we're both spiritual, well, when I'm falling, you can help me to get back up. And I think it's very important. If you're a spiritual person, you do want to be, and I'm not saying you cannot work. That's not what I'm saying, but it would be very difficult for you to build any type of relationship, whether it's platonic relationship or romantic
Mhm.
relationship. Otherwise, it will be much easier for you to be in the same level intimacy when it comes to spiritual. Because
Well, I think, like, even if someone doesn't directly say that they're connected with their spirituality or whatever it may be, I think the spiritual intimacy even goes into the growth mindset. Okay. So whether it is being mindfulness, whether it's meditation, how do you balance, how do you connect with the aspects of ourself that are unseen? How
that
do you
is
go through life?
I love that. I love the fact that you talk about meditation and mindfulness.
Yeah,
All that is spiritual. And by the way,
absolutely.
let me add this: we are more spiritual. We are a spiritual being having a natural experience. So whether or not we want to admit or acknowledge that we are spiritual, we are more spiritual than we think. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And yeah, for even the person that says that they're not, they often are. But I think what happens is that even if you were in a couple where the woman goes to church and the man doesn't, which we see that, okay, they might
Mhm.
also have a spiritual connection in the sense they both have a growth mindset. They both
I,
have both of them have what the glass half full instead of half empty. But if you
I,
got one with the half full and the other one half empty, that's what being unequally yoked is. If you are someone that is mindful and believes that you can do more and do better, and you have someone that feels like they're never going to be any better than what they are today.
mm,
See that you might not see the word spirituality in that, but it is how you see life in the future. It's what is your values? What
Right.
is your concept of the experience that you want to have? And I don't.
Values and morals as well.
What's that?
Your values and your morals as
Your
well.
values and your morals. If you're not connected there, so let's say she goes to church and you don't. But if you are connected into the values and morals and you have that equal, so I'm saying it doesn't always have to be one thing. You might be a little off on one thing,
Right.
but if you are stacked up on the other, it does, you make up for that one thing.
And you mentioned, this person may go to church, the other one may not go to church, but it does not hinder that person that goes to church to go to church. And that's another thing.
That's the
I
other.
may not go to your church, but I am there to say, hey, honey, you going to church? Great, do your thing. I'm gonna go do my thing. I'm gonna make sure when you get back from church, I'm gonna be home.
Right. Right.
But
Like you might be going to yoga, I might be going to church, but we support each other in our own practices,
our
right?
own practices, and that is also spiritual intimacy. So it doesn't have to be, oh, because I go to this church, you have to go to that church. I believe in this, faith, you have to believe in that faith. No, it's respecting each other's path to whatever spirituality is going to lead us.
Each other's path. Respecting each other's path.
Respecting each other's path.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I have a big question about all of these when we're done. So if I am not mistaken, let's go to creative.
Yeah, you call it creative, and I like to call it digital because of where we are. Doesn't mean we are not creative, but for the sake of the conversation, you all understand, because it's going to take some type of creativity, right, to be able to apply or access this intimacy, which I call digital intimacy, which is we're in a digital age.
Mhm.
And especially if you're listening, especially if you're in a long distance relationship, that's when this one comes into play. When you're in a relationship with a long distance relationship, digital intimacy is going to be the key to keep you guys connected
Mhm.
through text, phone call, video call, right?
Mhm.
When you wake up in the morning, that person may not maybe 1,000 miles away from you, but there's a way that you connect with that person digitally. That person feel like you were sleeping next to them,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And I
Right.
may not have the time. I might not have the time to video call you because of where I'm at, but I'm going to give you a quick call. I'm going to leave you a voice message, right? And when I'm at home and I'm done with my day, I want to see your face. I want to walk around the house. You see what's going on. And I don't
Mhm.
have to ask you. And a woman wouldn't have to ask me to walk around the house. I mean, I want to make you feel that, hey, this is where I live. Nothing to hide. There's nothing more that a man can do to secure a woman that 1,000 miles away that you live alone, like I am, right? So I think
Mhm.
it's super important, whether you're in a long distance relationship or not. I think text, call, a video call, very important. However, let me caution you. I've that had that happen before to me a little while
You
ago.
got catfish, didn't you? You got catfish?
No. It's that never, ever, ever, never, ever have deep conversation through text.
Mm.
Never. Because the way you say it and the way that person interpreted it is because never, ever, ever, ever. You
Mhm.
can do just a quick conversation, and when you see this conversation getting deeper, say, you know what? How about we get on a phone call?
Okay,
How about
so can I tell you, we're in an age where people do that way too because they're avoiding the deep connection. They're avoiding it is easier to text than to stop and get in, and we see it generationally, right? Like my older aunts and uncles want to get on the phone with me, and I'm like, just send me a text message. I'm good, right?
right, right.
Because stopping and being fully connected, stopping and being fully present.
Present. That's what it requires, because I could be sending a text while I'm on a Zoom and I don't even pay attention to what I'm saying, and all of a sudden we already press send.
Already
You're
too
like,
late.
what the heck that, you understand? So we require this. It requires you being fully present, as you said. To say, you know what? There are some conversation it's going to require text, but there are some conversation, not even just a regular phone call. It's got to be a video. I'm very visual, and I'll read body language. And it's been said that in a conversation, 90% of the conversation is nonverbal. To only 10% of words. I want to see what you're saying to me that your body matches. I can tell if a woman is lying because
Mhm.
what you're saying with your mouth and what your body is saying are
Two
two very
different.
completely different things. So even a phone call, if I really want to have a deep conversation connection with a woman, I'm not gonna just do it on a phone call. I gotta do video. If you cannot do
See,
video,
people are scared these days. So I think you make it so people need to hear that. And so you need to make the phone call. And once you
at the
get
very
beyond
least,
that, I think people's anxieties and fears, I think, go away to some extent, but you have to be willing to make the connection. Okay, so with all of these, and I think we went through all six of these, right?
well,
Um,
except for one last one, because I did mention physical and non-sexual, but about
mhm,
the sexual intimacy, how they should like to be loved, touched on a way that is sexual, because there is touch that is non-sexual and there's a touch
mhm,
that is sexual. How
mhm,
they should like to be touched sexually?
mhm.
How they should like to be pleased without, we got to give it PG 13, but we're grown folks, right? How they
Right,
should
right.
like to be loved, to be touched, to be caressed, to be hugged tightly, where they should like to be touched in a way that brings this, all of those things. Some people don't know how to
So,
do
but
that.
for some people, what I heard you just say is vulnerability. Because
Again,
I
to
am
be
willing,
naked.
I need to stop and learn what you like, then I may not what okay, so what men and women, what if I'm not able to fulfill that? What if that's something I don't want to do? What
Mhm,
if I cannot be satisfying to this person? Like
mhm.
once you get into if you don't do it, it ain't gonna work. Okay.
It ain't gonna
But
work.
being able to have enough intimacy to explore that space is means that you have to have some vulnerability.
Well, also the deep conversation. And when I always tell people, when you go to I don't care how many times that you've been to that restaurant. I don't care if it's the same server that's there. You're always gonna tell them how you want your food. You don't just go ahead and say, I want a steak or I want some eggs. They're going to ask you how you like your eggs, and you will tell them how you want your eggs. So you take the time to tell a server how you like your food, but you can't tell your partner how to be loved, how to be touched.
Look,
You
you said something right. You said you can tell the server how you want your eggs, but if you cannot tell your partner how you want to be loved and touched,
we got a problem. The problem
this is
is
a
expect.
problem.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
a
a
huge
problem
problem.
because that means what is your level of what is your level of intimacy? If you can tell a stranger you want sunny side up, but you can't tell your partner how you want what turns you on, what is exciting for you, what isn't exciting for. Like if
Right,
you can't get there,
right,
you just better stick with the restaurant.
right. And here's the word. One word for that is expectation. And
Mm,
expectation leads to disappointment. We have way too many expectations. What do I mean by that? Well, he should know. He's been married twice. Hello. Well, he should know. Well, no, but wasn't married to you. I'm
right.
sorry. I've been married twice, yeah, but I wasn't married to you. I don't know how you want to be loved. I don't know your past wound, hurt, pain. I don't know that. So you
Mhm.
can't just because I'm 43 years old, all of a sudden, yes, it does come with the experience. That's the territory. I've been around. I've been around the block, right? So I know certain things. But just because I know certain things doesn't mean that I know this is the way you like it. I may have
Yes,
to
I
learn all
also
over
want to
again.
say that yes, experience is great, but I think it's more beautiful if you're saying, but I've never been with you.
Right. I've never been
Right?
with
So
you.
now you're not, I got all this experience and I've been with all the no, if you can say, I want to learn you, that is intimacy. Otherwise, you're just, you're
Winging
just
it. You're just
just
winging it.
running through and women need to be the same way. They need to be able to say that this is intimacy and that this is the way that they want to be touched and experienced. Sorry, I forgot. Okay.
Right.
So and that they want to have this experience. So Okay, so there was one other comment. I want to go back to the experiential. That
Right.
there are many times men and women do this where
Mhm.
the one partner wants to have this experience doing this, learning. I want you to learn, hey, I like to do, I don't know, I like to go bowling, blah, blah, blah. And the other partner just is like, I don't want to do that. That isn't fun. Like they don't even see the point of having the experience at least once,
Right.
because sometimes the experience is just about learning your partner. Now you might
Exactly.
finish bowling and your partner's going, and you did the best you could and you were in there and you had fun, but you know you don't want to do that again. But your
Right.
partner will love the fact that you love them enough to do it. Okay.
It's funny you
But
bring that up. Right. It's funny you bring that up. I had an experience not too long ago. This young lady, she said, would you like to go to hockey? I'm like, listen, I'm a football and basketball type of guy in soccer. I have no reason whatsoever to go to hockey. But I say I will do it because I know that I will spend time with you.
yeah,
You say,
look at
are you
you, look
sure?
at you. You do look at you putting on the
Right.
smile.
What was shocking to her is like I have asked. She's a black woman. She said I've asked so many black men to go to a hockey game with me. They've never agreed to go with me. And you're the first man that say that. And even though I lay out at the beginning. I said, listen, I'm a football, soccer, basketball guy. I don't like hockey. I have no reason to go to hockey. I couldn't care less for hockey. But I say, I believe that the mere fact that I'm going to be with you, we're probably going to have a good time.
Look at you. Okay, but let me ask you, did you enjoy it?
You know what? The mere fact that she was there, I somehow enjoy. Would I do it again? Would she ask me again? Would I do it again? Probably not. I probably will say, you know what, can we do something else because I've done it. But if it comes down to it, I would do it again. But would that be my preference? No. So my answer the second time wouldn't be the same answer that I did the
Right,
first time.
but you tried, and I'm assuming you had a great attitude, and
Oh, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. If you saw me at the game, you'd be like, oh man, he's a
look
hockey
at that
fan.
man. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
No,
I have
I
some
like
knowledge
hockey
about hockey.
games. I like hockey games. So I was hoping that, but I went. I just a friend of mine just happened to have free tickets, and I took the kids. I had nothing to do, and I was shocked that I liked it. So I was kind of thinking that maybe, but no.
Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just having it's atmosphere and seeing that person happy because that person loved the hockey. And I'm seeing, so for me, there's a saying that says, if hurting you doesn't hurt me, then I don't love you. I'm using you. But if your happiness doesn't want to be happiness, then what are we here for?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
I agree.
just your happiness should bring me happiness
Yeah,
indirectly.
yeah, I agree. I agree. That's beautiful. Okay, so that was the one thing that if you are going to do the experience, you got to show up with a smile on your face and the whole deal. Okay,
You gotta act like
so
you want to be there.
you have to act like you want to be there. Otherwise, don't just look. That's don't do that, right?
Right.
Okay, so this is my thing. I want to leave with each one of these a take home assignment for
Right.
each one of these. Okay, so someone's looking at this and they want to work on physical non-sexual intimacy. What are they what are they doing? What is that take home?
Oh, absolutely. If you wanna experience a physical intimacy, non-sexual intimacy, it's really about why don't we just ask the person, do you like when people hold your hands? How do you
Find
like
out what your partner
yeah,
likes.
exactly. Instead of breaking your head and trying to figure out, you're gonna try and ask the person. When you walk with people or when you walk with a man, do you like your hands to be held? How do you like to be held? See, I'm a bodybuilder. I tend to grab a woman's hand, and I'm not gonna lie, and I squeeze it because we think that we're doing this with the barbell or with the dumbbell. So I have to relearn again. This is a woman's hand that I'm touching, and I
Right,
have to
right.
motions. I gotta have stuffed hands. Those are the things that men are not willing to do. Ask the person, do you like to be held? Do you like to be kissed on the forehead, on the cheek, something like that? Do you like to be hugged? How tight? all of those things. And a woman will be, you'll be shocked how the woman will look at you. If you're a man, the woman will look at you like, no man ever, I'll try that. This woman will tell you, no man ever asked me this. And that's how you know that you're working on your, you're at a level of emotional intelligence that most men are not there, because you're actually asking that person.
I love that. And, I will add into it that also consider that with, let's say, your kids, consider that even sometimes with your parents, like, hey, saying, hey, I want to give you a hug. Do you like hugs? Or do you, finding out some of those things can be very beneficial, and it also makes them seen. Now, if you're someone that has anxiety when it comes to physical touch, what I would recommend is, let's say you are holding hands, be in the moment, breathe through it, actually feel the other hand touching yours, and think about what it actually means. Slow it down, because what happens is people that have anxiety about physical touch. They hug quickly, they're out, right?
Right.
Take it slower, breathe through it, and really consider, what does it mean? What is this person expressing to me? And if you can just slow that down a little bit, it'll probably you'll find a place that actually that you feel comfortable with. This is not about being comfortable with something that you're uncomfortable with. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm saying, when you want to express physical touch, but you have some tension with it, slow down.
And because also physical intimacy require an exchange of energy. So there is some exchange of energy. So again, is there compatibility when it comes to energy? So that person may be kind of like that. We may have a great conversation. All of a sudden, when we get to physical intimacy, there's a disconnect. So don't be shocked if that person is kind of like take back because of the energy exchange. That's very important.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to put that up there for a second. Okay. So let's talk about and like I said, I don't want to take up a lot of time with this, but I think people should have a take home. Okay.
Right.
So if you struggle with emotional intimacy, what is someone's homework assignment?
Absolutely. It's learning how to express how you feel. And I have different levels of that. And it's a 5 steps. First, you have to identify your emotions. What am I feeling? What kind of emotion? Because some people don't know what emotions are. What am I feeling right now? You have to identify it, right? And then you have to acknowledge it. Okay, I'm feeling this. Put a word. I'm sad. I'm happy. Whatever. Put a word to it. Once you identify, not acknowledge it, because you identify. Don't just push it in the corner. Acknowledge it. Once you've done that, the third step is to articulate it. Now, this is how I'm feeling. Fourth, you have to learn how to control that emotions and not letting the emotion control you. And fifth, you have to master your emotions. So emotional intimacy is understanding or identify the emotion that I'm feeling right now. Once you understand that, it will be easier for you to have the intimacy with that person, because all the steps that I just laid out, that's how emotional intimacy begins. You identify, you acknowledge, you articulate, you control it, and you master it. Boom, you have an emotional intimacy right there.
Absolutely, right. And then and be willing to be vulnerable.
Be willing to be vulnerable. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, because that's part of the emotional intelligence. Absolutely.
So intellectual. Right. So I don't know. Can you teach people intellectual intimacy?
You can't teach people that. You can explain it to them, but that work they have to do it themselves. Basically, it's intellectual. It's not just the knowledge, but also it's the wisdom that comes with the knowledge. Because we don't have problem with knowledge right now. We have a lot of knowledge. I mean, at the click of a button, we have the information. But it's how we're going to apply that information. It's going to require wisdom. So if whether it's books, whether it's podcasts, all that information is coming from everywhere. So how do you know to decipher which one is to be used now, to be used later, or to be rejected? because not all knowledge are good knowledge. Not all knowledge are necessary or important. They're just there. They're just
Right.
knowledge, right? Do I
And
need to know? Do I need to know someone's stats as a player? For
right.
me, I don't care because I'm not a sports analyst. I don't bet. You understand? So it's all about not just knowledge, but it's to understand which one I'm going to take, and now the way that I'm going to apply it. Am I going to apply it at the right time? And that's when wisdom is going to come in.
Absolutely. I honestly, I'm going to recommend something that people do not like to do. I recommend you read.
Oh.
And I'm not saying, oh, all of a sudden,
I got a great book I like to. I would recommend you to read this book.
but honestly, whatever it is that you like are interested in, take it one step deeper. And I'm not talking about what Beyonce is doing this week. Okay. That might be what you're interested in. But I'm saying that you're watching the news, ask yourself critical questions, and then go on a discovery. Learn, take another level deeper, just on your own. Stretch your own experience, and then be willing to be vulnerable and share your viewpoint with someone that you trust.
Absolutely. I love the takeaways.
So creative or digital?
The intimacy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What do you recommend for people that and the creative word has just a little bit more to do with, it's almost experiential, that you might create art or music or finding ways of expressing love and emotion through other forms, other mediums that are not touch and that are not it might be food.
Right, exactly. So there's a guy that says a real man don't love 100 women. A real man will love one woman 100 different ways.
That's all that needs to be said. Find ways to love that person.
Find different ways. Find different ways, because this person is a whole person. Trust me, it'll take you a lifetime to get to know someone, right? So there's in every stage in that person's life is going to require a different you to learn that person. The problem we have in relationship is that we stay the same, but this person evolving, and then all of a sudden we can't catch up with that person because you have not evolved alongside with that person, so you're behind. So be creative. When we're talking about digital intimacy, if that person is going in a long ride for 3 hours, send a quick text. Let me know if you get home. That's one of the things that I love to do. If I'm going on a date with a woman, for some reason it's innate in me. I need to know you get home. I don't know why. I'm obsessed with that. Please send me a text message. Let me know you are home.
Right. And this is something that we're doing in a new age, right? So let's take advantage of it and let's make the phone the positive and not the negative, right?
And not the negative. Exactly.
Okay. Someone needs to do a take-home assignment around experiential intimacy. What should they do?
Find something that you have never done before.
Yes.
Look for something you have never done before, or look for something that the other person, they have an interest in. I mean, this person just love it. Well, guess what? Go with them.
Take a chance. Do something new.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy it, enjoy them doing
it. Yeah. Listen, I tried hot yoga years ago. I was the only black man at hot yoga. Okay. Guess what? I got addicted to it.
You did, see? But I love
I'm like, no, I am not going. Oh no, I'm not going to hot yoga. When I find out I was the only men there, only black men, I'm like, okay, now my ego start playing tricks on me, and like, this is a woman thing. Are you sure you?
So it was only black men or only black women going? Oh, you were going to be the only black man there. Is that what you said?
Only men, period. Never mind black men.
You were the only man there.
Only men in hot yoga with my shirt off, dripping all over. And at that time, a good thing is I had like 12 packs. Some people have 4 packs, 6 packs. I had about 12.
There you go.
So that helps a little bit. But I find myself 3 months later going to hot yoga every Monday night, because it does something. Not only does something good to my body, but it's just another way for me to challenge myself. I say, you know what? It's okay. You're the only black man. That's fine. So, and I didn't think that I was gonna like it. So, experiential intimacy will take you to a whole nother level, and because of that, it helps you with your emotional intelligence. It helps you with your intellectual as well,
Yeah, very good. I
and
love
of course,
that.
it helps your body as well.
And then lastly, someone needs to take home assignment for spiritual intimacy.
Okay, perfect. What you have to define what is spirituality to you.
Mm-hmm.
Once you learn how to, because if you cannot, like I always said, you cannot tell somebody who you are if you don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. So find out what spirituality is to you and be able to explain that to that person. And hopefully that person has a level of maturity enough to understand, okay, this person may not be in the same spiritual path, but I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to be open and understand where they're coming from. So understand what spirituality is to you, what it means to you in order for you to be able to articulate that. Once you learn that, if you have not done that, I would say this is this is an inside job. This is an internal work you have to do. Because keep in mind, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, whether you believe it or not, we are more spiritual than we are. We're all spiritual beings. What kind of spiritual path are you on? In order for you to be able to articulate it to that person and for that person to respect it. Because if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
Anything.
Right? So if you don't have a spiritual path, that person is gonna drag you to theirs. Hopefully you integrate, hopefully it works out for you, but it may not work out for you because you don't have the identity when it comes to your own spirituality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. I will definitely be doing my homework. I hope others will as well. Definitely share with others how they can connect with you.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I am on every social media platform, Will to Rise, because I do believe we all have the will and the ability to rise. So therefore we will rise together. So I'm on every platform, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And of course, if you want to book a session with me, you can always go to meetwilltorise.com. You book a session or just send me a DM, or better yet, connect with me on Owl. And you have
so that's where we met. We met on Owl. And so
right.
I haven't been on there since I met you.
I know I've been looking for you. And it's strange how I call you, because there's something that I kind of like, what is this woman talking about? And I was so intrigued. Instead of me looking at your profile and saying, what you talking about? This is wrong. No. I called you because I was interested in knowing something I didn't know. Instead of having a preconceived notion, instead of having a prejudice about that, I called you and figured out exactly what it was all about.
And I don't even bite people, do it like I'm a good person, right?
Yeah, oh, you're a great person. What are you talking about? And guess what? Because of that conversation, because I was so curious to learn something I don't know, instead of judging you, I called you. And guess what? This is a beautiful connection. This is a beautiful relationship. We have this intellectual and emotional and right intimacy. And sometimes digital, because we do text as well. So there we go.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, we'll definitely reach out. Thank you so much for doing Healthy Relationships today. And remember, people, we'll be here next week. Also on Wednesday, we will have not just Courage and Cannabis at 7 p.m., but we will have Courage and Comedy this week, which we're really excited about. So check that out, 7 p.m. right here on YouTube and Courage and Cannabis and wherever you watch our show. Thank you again, Will. And remember, we can accept nothing less than healthy relationships.
Absolutely.
Only. Absolutely.
Yes. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. This is the third time. You see, third time is the charm. So I've made it. I've passed it the third time. So guess what? I'm good, people.
You're in. You're in. I love it. I love it.
That's good.
Absolutely. Well, have a good night, everyone. And we'll see you on Wednesday next week.